Yes, LA burned up, but you know it didn't have to. That was kind of man-made and foreseeable. Now, you remember last year it rained a whole lot. Well, when it does that, obviously it's going to make a lot of fuel. That's not the whole problem. It's the building codes. Now, I'm from Chicago, and we had something called the Chicago Fire. Well, we didn't have it in my lifetime. It was 1871, and all of Chicago burned up. That was it. Now, I lived in a house in Chicago that predated the Chicago Fire, but it was 5700 South, so I think that was too far from downtown Chicago to count. I guess Hyde Park wasn't part of Chicago back then. And the only thing that survived it was the old water tower, which was built of stone. So what they did is they changed the building code so there were no more wood frame buildings in Chicago. They're done. There are no more. So, because Chicago is the windy city. It's always like, how the Santa Ana winds are in LA. It's always like that in Chicago. Mrs. O'Leary's cow kicked over the lantern, and the lantern ignited some hay, and it burned up all of Chicago just like that. That doesn't have to happen. Now, the weak point is roofing, and let's talk about that first. First, there's always metal. Metal makes great roofing. Let me show you something I built. That's my Arizona house, and it gets to 130 degrees out there, so good place to burn. No humidity, 130 degrees. But I'm not expecting it to burn. Even though steel does burn, your stove is made of steel and it doesn't burn up if you leave it on. Now, unfortunately, I built it in the wrong spot. I put it in Arizona, and that's kind of a speed ghetto, and it doesn't really, oh well. You gotta always build something in a spot you like in the first place. It's near Needles, California, which is the hottest town in the nation. It took the title from Phoenix. Isn't that great? Not only is it super hot, it's super dry, and things can burn up in a flash. So I built it out of steel. If you shred it into steel wool, then it's easier to light. And the sheet metal, you can step on the roof. Now, I have another material, because sometimes if you're on the seashore, you probably don't want to use steel. You know it's better nowadays. See this stuff? You know what this is. This is like Wonder Board. This particular one is Hardybacker. Never been used for roofing. But this piece has been laying outside for a couple of years, and you see nothing's wrong with it. It's already been burned. You put a torch on a piece of cement, it doesn't do any good. This stuff is great. Now, it comes in 3x5 sheets. So you have to put your studs on 20-inch centers. And this is the 1/4 inch. It has no live load capability. If you want something you can step on, you've got to use the 1/2 inch. But I'm not ruling out the 1/4 inch. It could be done on an extreme slope where you have your studs at 20-inch centers. And guess what? The studs don't have to be wood. They could be those metal studs, and just put screws right into them. And then you lap it like you would a shingle. Only since they're so much bigger than shingles. And then there are many ways to handle the seams, and I think silicone is a possibility. Just put a little strip. But, the details on cement board are yet to be worked out. I have never built a cement board roof. But now there's another wonderful roofing material, and it's the absolute cheapest, and you don't have to paint it. And that is second quality reused solar panels. There are a bunch of places in the country where you can buy these things. You get on eBay and look for them. And they're especially in California and the Southwest, where you can buy, somebody changes their solar system, they replace it all. The commercial outfits, they replace their systems, and they have all these panels, and they're very cheap, and they got 80% of their original capacity still left, and you don't have to paint them. So they're a great building material, and same thing. You just put a little bead of silicone on the edge and put them together. And they're great. And guess what? You can even use them to make electricity. They're black. And of course, we want everything that the sun touches to be white. Having cool cities is another important function that the building codes could serve. Now, for one thing, we want to get rid of that toxic oil product black topping. The black topping is like having a hair dryer for every square yard. Having a hair dryer up on full blast every square yard of blacktop parking lot. So we can at least paint them white. But really we need material like cement, white cement. Big improvement. I say less toxic. But we need to concentrate on white topping. And of course rooftops, you can get them in any color you want. And they're mineral roofing, which is basically oil products that burns. So that's dead. And we don't want it in all colors. We only want it in white. You know, building codes are intrusive. They tell people what to do. But there's a reason for it. So everything that isn't solar should be white. And now, sidewalks. Sidewalks are good candidates for solar shade. Now, there are a bunch of places that have gone on the white topping kick. One of them is in the San Fernando Valley. I think it might be Reseda, Canoga, it's around there somewhere, where they outlawed black topping. But I don't think it's changed yet. I don't know. And then Phoenix was talking about it. I talked about it in front of the Needle City Council. They're not done. But, you know, any place where it's super hot like that, solar shade over the sidewalks and white streets would give you another couple of months of walkability per year. I live in a fire trap, and my fire trap burned up. I had a terrible fire in it that burned up 1/3 of the house, 4 important guitars and a whole bunch of other stuff, and one very nice Hammond organ. But that is the problem. I found out when 1/3 of my house burned, the stuff inside is flammable. And I learned that things inside the house provide fuel. All that stuff. Furniture. I don't have any furniture, but I have this kind of stuff, and it burns. And what caught first in my house was a tree where I hang it's a metal tree, but I hang all my connecting cords there. And so it had basically like a truck tire all shredded up into little strands. So that made a hole in my ceiling. And it filled the place with smoke so bad. I opened the door because I was working outside. And I said, what's that awful smell? Someone is burning something. I opened my door and it was black from floor to ceiling. And I thought, well, I can get under it and see where the fire was. I tried. No, I couldn't get under it. It was just completely black, and I just came out black. So I stood there with a garden hose while people tried to call a fire department, which they did. But what I found out is the stuff inside your house burns. The furniture, the carpet, bedding, fabric, all that stuff, curtains. That's what burns. I mention this because steel buildings have metal flooring systems. And the flooring is a usual trouble spot in houses because it's flammable. I'm talking about non-flammable houses. Oh, that would be so nice. The hot ember lands on your roof like this. You just got to sit there till it goes out. I'm getting a 1 meter wide by 5 foot long used solar panel for $35 in Phoenix. You gotta drive far to get it, but a truckload of those I can get to my house for about $45 a panel. And the plywood, you have to paint it. You have to do all kinds of stuff too. Put roofing material over it, and the solar panel is done. And by the way, you can get electricity out of the solar panel. So all this can be done with the building codes. And, if you take a look at the Hollywood Hills, you see two things. Wood frame houses with, their porch, with their deck, their wooden deck, and trees. And they have, it's basically forest on hillsides. It's the Hollywood Hills. Now, of course, if the flatlands in Hollywood get hit by a fire, it's just going to wipe out block after block after block, which is what happened in Altadena. Whole blocks are flattened looked like Dresden. But they were matchboxes. And, of course, that's what I'm standing in now. I'm standing in a wood frame house. I didn't plant that tree so close to the house. It grew there before I had the house. And that's bad. And even if I cut it away from the house, which I do regularly, doesn't matter. It's still way too close. And wood frame houses are great because they store carbon. And that's great to build things out of wood. But if it burns down and you have to start over, that's not very sustainable either. So, stucco is okay for siding. But most people don't use a stucco roof, which is something I've always thought of is a stucco A-frame. That would certainly be fireproof. Good idea. Have to make a stucco A-frame. But you make the stucco A-frame on those metal, I guess they're called metal studs, but you use them for rafters. Now all this stuff has to get by building departments. But hey, building departments, it's your job. If you don't want another Chicago fire in your city, if you don't want Los Angeles to burn up, and look, so predictable. You got extra rain, that makes plenty of fuel for the next fire, and you got houses built of matchsticks. So don't be surprised when they burn. Just do something different next time.